It's like the night at the Roxbury.
Yeah. Okay. Look, everything worked. I'm like surprised. It's never this smooth. But we are live. We've not done an RPG chat in a while. We have a new friend with us today. It's very exciting because there's also a new adventure out there in the world that we're going to be talking about today. Before we get into all of that, I'm gonna plug some stuff real fast because that's what we do on Twitch. Last week we finished our Call of Cthulhu campaign. If you've not seen that, you can check out the VOD over on our YouTube. That was a lot of fun. Next week we're going to be making characters for Delta Green. So I'm very excited to get that going. The campaign is going to be a short campaign between like 12 and 14 sessions. It's going to be called Harvest. So I can't wait to get that off the ground. And this Friday, as always, we are playing our Dungeons & Dragons continuation of Icewind Dale campaign. So come check that out. And they're in the middle of a dungeon crawl, which is always one of my favorite things to run. So
Yeah.
yeah, but we've got new people with us. So starting on the left of the computer, Alan, it's been a little bit. Say hi.
Hey guys, my name is Alan, the all-seeing eye of the Panopticon, and I am happy to be here once again with my friend and co-writer, Griff. Griff, you want to introduce yourself?
Oh man, I wish I could have gone first because I have fewer cool things to say. Hi everybody, I'm Griff.
Yeah, but sometimes that's
End
all
of
you need.
statement.
Sometimes just being short and sweet
Yeah.
gets to it. I just have a little bit of a brand.
Yeah, and I talk too much, so, you know. There's always that. All right, so let's go ahead and jump straight into this. I see we got some viewers in the chat, so if at any point you guys have any questions, go ahead, drop them in there, and because we're here to answer your questions, so go ahead and ask away. So let's go ahead and kick things off. So why don't you tell the world about the adventure that you guys have just published?
Yeah. So for those who don't know what the system is, it is called City of Mist. It is a game created by Son of Oak Games, and let me see if I can. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, got to plug the book. So this is Son of Oak Games, and it is quite possibly one of the coolest systems that I've ever had a chance to play. and um, very very smooth, streamlined, easy to learn. Never had any issues with it. Um, and then I'm sorry, what was the question? It's been
Oh,
it's
tell us
been a
about the
day.
adventure,
Yeah.
which
So
is now also in the chat as a link.
thank
ha.
you. So our adventure. This is the I guess first episode. Would you say, Griff?
I would definitely say I even think of it as considering how we're working on writing the whole thing, almost the pilot.
Yeah. So this is the pilot episode of the whole series that we're working on called Breaking Neon. And this first case, or the first episode, is about essentially the Mad Hatter and the Russian Mafia.
Which is amazing because only in a game like City of Mist can you say that with a straight face and
Yeah.
not be talking in metaphor.
This is literally about the Mad Hatter and the Russian Mafia. Awesome.
Yeah,
And
yeah. As you do.
yeah.
As you do.
So if anybody's curious about how that actually all comes together and wants to see gameplay of that, you can come and check out the session we did back. When did we play? Was it March?
March, I think,
March-ish.
when we
Sometime
March.
around March and April and spring. It was the spring. I remember that there was less snow
Yeah.
outside. So sometime during the spring we did a live play of it. And we also made characters live for that. So you can go ahead
Yeah.
and check that out. That was
I
very
remember
fun.
that. Yep.
Awesome. So
We
why
gotta
don't
do that again.
we do have to do that again? I would love to play. I would love to play I would love to play this or one of the future sessions. That would be.
Oh, yeah.
That would be a lot of fun. So why don't we go ahead and talk about what was the process like writing with two game masters and putting that together?
So originally, when I started writing this, I hadn't actually met Griff yet. When I started writing this, I had just gotten into City of Mist back in
Oh,
January.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yep. And I had this grand idea that I wanted to do something really out there, especially since they had announced that they were going to be doing this creators marketplace. And not long after that, I started opening up public games. For those who don't know, I am a professional game master. I have paid games, and I got Griff kind of accidentally.
Oh, so
we believe in happy
yeah.
accidents. Yeah, because I was first off, I fell in love with City of Mist. It is one of the coolest game systems and premises that I've ever encountered. So when Alan advertised of like, hey, I'm running City of Mist, I'm like, yes, subscribe, yes, let's talk about this.
Yeah, it's an
Boom,
extremely
jumped on.
unique system. It doesn't feel like
It
anything
is.
else.
It doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's derivative of
Mhm.
like of Dungeons and Dragons or like Shadowrun or like and nothing wrong with those systems. I'm just saying like it feels like its own category. It's difficult to say that it's really like anything else that I've played. I know
Yeah.
it runs. I know it runs off of something similar to the Apocalypse system,
It's
Built by
actually
the
powered
Apocalypse?
by the Apocalypse.
Powered by the Apocalypse, yeah.
but even just with that, just the premise, and it's one of those things that's super role play heavy,
Yeah.
And like really forces you to come out of your shell. And even if you're not a great number cruncher or you're not great at stats, the whole mechanic of the game is tell a story
Yeah.
first and foremost.
Which I think is really cool because you got some other games that are based around that are less combat heavy, but those games are usually less combat heavy because if you try combat, you die, like Call of Cthulhu or Delta Green or Zweihander, which is fine too. But it's nice to have a game where it's like tell a story first, and then if combat fits into that story, that's great. But that's not what you're necessarily there to do. So did that make it easier to write with two people because you didn't need to really worry about balance as much?
Sort of. So when I actually like got down into like hunkering down into writing this game, I realized that I was way over my head on the creative writing front. And by then, Griff and I had been playing together for at least 5 months.
Yeah, at least
Something like
5 months to half a year.
Yeah, so I I just straight up asked him. I was like, I love the way that his characters are designed. I love the way he portrays them, and I figured that he could probably bring that same writing to my game. So I asked him to, join me on this and help me out. And sure enough, man is a genius.
Oh, thank you. To add on that, because Jake, if I'm understanding the nature of the question,
Mhm.
it's kind of, how did we split this up?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, so basically, I've had some experience writing for other indie games that I'm not going to plug here because I think most of those companies went under.
As it
So,
does. Yeah.
yeah, as it happens.
Hmm.
But I had writing samples that I was able to show Alan, and with that, and as far as divvying up the works, I'd like to think that it's fairly equal, where we both have like story components and we both have mechanics. But if I'm saying like what our strengths are, I think I am particularly strong at writing the words, weaving the elements of the case together, uh, using the expressions to set the mood. And Alan is kind of a genius at taking story elements and then translating them over into game mechanics, so that that makes sense.
Thank
That's
And
you.
fantastic.
Yeah, I actually have a much stronger background with mechanical aspects of gaming. So like I could take to systems really quickly,
Hmm.
but the moment that I have to do anything beyond trying to world build, I start like
Hmm.
hitting that roadblock.
Yeah,
And
that's
so
something I hate when I'm doing prep. Like my prep, like I'll like for the Delta Green campaign, like I have a map and I have like all the NPCs written down, and then when I guess like the actual sessions, I'm like, whatever happens, happens. I don't want to write that down.
yeah. So like I between the two of us, we work together and we get this idea together for how we kind of want things to go down. And then mechanically I work out on like the dangers of the game, which are like the opponents that you're going to face or the threats that you might have to deal with.
yep.
And he lays out the story in a way that is more cohesive than I could have provided.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think our not just our skill sets, but our natural tendencies are kind of complementary towards each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was reading through the adventure. I read it when Alan first sent it to me before it came out, and then I was reading it last night and this morning, and I'm like, this it feels incredibly professional in the
Oh,
way
thank
it's
you.
laid out,
Yeah.
and it
Thanks.
feels like something that I've seen companies with entire design teams put less thought into some products. So it was just very kind of intuitive to read through, which was really nice, and it makes sense now hearing you guys describe the process. That's why it feels that way.
So quick disclaimer, I have never used InDesign or Affinity in my life. And so the week and a half that I had to mad scramble, learn how to do it, and put the whole thing together was kind of a trip.
Yeah, those softwares, because I'm designing some missions for a skirmish game, and
Oh yeah.
those type of softwares can just be such a pain in the neck to get
Oh
to
god,
work
yeah.
properly. Because you're like, I just want my idea to look pretty. Because like I've got good ideas, I just want it to look pretty, and then it's like, oh, I made it worse. Oh, look, it's worse again.
Yeah, I mean that was kind of the big thing for me was trying to get through because I ended up buying
Hmm.
Affinity publisher, and thankfully they provided us with the template, so there wasn't a whole lot of trying to make it from scratch. But trying to work off of somebody else's template is also a hassle in itself
Definitely.
because you're having to go through everything and try to like pick and pluck and
Hmm.
remove the things that you don't need.
Yeah, like even making thumbnails for the VODs when we're done with the videos, it's more work than people realize.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Cool. So that's so how does your how does writing for this differ for doing prep for a personal game? What's the like how do you kind of because as a dungeon master and a game master, I realize that there's some things that like I don't prep for myself at this point. So, but so how does it differ to put together a professional adventure than a personal one?
I'm gonna let Alan take most of this, but I think I've got a good answer for our part.
I like good answers.
They're better than the bad ones.
Yeah.
So we played through High Tea before it was written. We're kind of using our table as like play testers. So one of the differences is when we were writing this pilot, we kind of had hindsight on what could go wrong or what interactions or what hooks really went through and which ones could have been improved and which ones were unnecessary, et cetera, et cetera. So we had the gift of hindsight for that part.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Because even with the initial idea that I had, like we played around quite a bit. I think I've ran that game probably 5 times now. And the most cohesive one was the one that that Griff and I came up with together. And that's using all that knowledge of the previous games to be able to do.
Great. No, that's fantastic. That makes a lot of sense that having good playtesters and playtesting the same thing multiple times would make it more cohesive when you go to publish it.
Exactly. And because part of writing a system like any game system is, and you're never going to count for everything, but at least being able to predict and anticipate what players might do.
Yeah.
No,
it's like what if on a little bit further into the actual case, there is sections on what to do if you end up getting injected with Rev or if you get injected with Stim, which are part of the game itself. So those will carry on further into the game, so that in the event that somehow it comes back up, boom, you've got it.
Nice. And did you find when you were writing that there were things that you thought that you might need to include that you didn't wind up including?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
lot gets cut off. Lot gets left on the cutting room floor.
Yeah.
Just extraneous info. Sorry, go ahead, Alan.
No, you're right. And even then, some of that, like some of the fat that we ended up having to trim, like, yeah, it ended up getting trimmed out. But even in formatting, there's a little bit that gets lost, because you're trying to make sure that everything fits and that you don't have just this one sentence hanging right there at the end or at the top part of the next page. So you have to pick and pluck at everything. It's it's kind of
presentation matters just as much as content.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. But in terms of like me prepping for games, I have actually found that I don't really do a whole lot more prep anymore. Outside of what I've already written, because I already know that the best laid plans never survive the first salvo. So you just got to be a little more open.
Yeah,
with how things go.
In high school, I used to like write like I was Token, and I would like have like these big laid out scenes, and there would be like script, and I'd be like, and then the queen's going to come in and say exactly this, and then the players are going to say something like this, and then the combat's going to go like that, and then like 11 years later, I'm just like bullet point, bullet point, bullet point, bullet point. The city's pretty, and we're done.
Yeah. And when I was prepping my own D&D game, not that a couple years back, I pretty much did bullet points, but I had like a whole book full of bullet points where I'm like, all right, so if they do this, I could do one of like 200 things.
And yeah, that happens all the time. Like you plan on it, you plan on like, okay, when they come to the scene and they investigate it, if they go to the vents and check out the vents, they'll find this little bit of residue, or if they'll find fingerprints right by the big screen TV and something missing from a nightstand. And then a player goes, I used my power to talk to birds. What did the birds see?
Yep. Well, yeah, and that's like D&D, especially 5th edition. It's like spells are the answer to everything. Yeah, so
But
now, yeah.
that's actually one of the cool things I like about the system of City of Mist. It reads, I having read a couple 5th ed modules and Pathfinder modules and reading cases in City of Mist, it reads a lot more like a teacher's lesson plan in the sense of, here's the scene, here's the setup. We're going to give the game master, the master of ceremonies, permission to use whatever they need to, but here are the things that you need to get across by the time they leave. How you do it is up to you.
Yeah.
But get across these ideas.
Yeah,
these clues.
I will say that the City of Mist, any of the City of Mist stuff, like the official cases that were released by Son of Oak, or even some of the ones in the garage, like Kevin Carpenter's case is actually really easy to read. And I just find that some of these, some of the 5e stuff and Pathfinder stuff, they just get so bogged down with information. Whereas the City of Mist ones, you're, just as you said, Griff, it's very much a wide open space. You just have to hit those points at some point, but you can just be free for all.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like, some systems try to impose ideas into them that just don't work. Like, like I love horror. Horror is my absolute favorite genre. But I completely skipped the Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft book because I'm just like, that's not gonna work. That's just not gonna work. It's 5th edition. Players have almost nothing to be scared of after level 4. It's just not there.
But Van Richten's got a lot of stuff.
Yes.
Hold on. Nathan asked why.
Oh, Nate, could you expand upon the why? Because we're on a bit of it. It's a 1-minute delay between the chat and what we see over here.
Oh,
so
yeah.
We need to know the why what. Why? I'm assuming, but he'll catch up. It'll be there.
Yeah. It's all good.
Yeah. So 5th edition, spells being problems. Van Richten's pretty cool, but the book's not good. So reading through, speaking of systems and imposing where they shouldn't be, High Tea to me kind of reads like a pulp noir mystery overall in the feel.
Yeah.
That's what I was getting out of it.
That is exactly what we're looking for too.
Okay, awesome.
You, Griff, are amazing. You did a great job on that. It's exactly how it was supposed to read. It's supposed to come off as this pulp.
I'm glad it did. Yes.
Perfect.
Pulp noir. Good. That did it right.
That's 100% what I got out of it. So, and something so I'm actually working on a video for the YouTube channel right now because I've been having all these ideas from Delta Green about how to run a mystery. So being you guys just put out a mystery, I kind of wanted to pick your brain. Like, do you have any magnet? Nate, I don't know what magnet you're talking about. Nate's my player, so I can pick on him a bit.
Come on, Nate.
Come on. Do better. But so do you guys have any specific philosophies for running mysteries in RPGs? Because I feel like it can be really cool, but I feel like it could also get messed up very easily.
Honestly, I feel like in order to run mysteries, there's a sort of you got to set the ambiance, and it's not just like, oh, I'm gonna have music and we're gonna dim the lights and do all that fun stuff. It's how much or how little you give to the players in terms of their environment, what they're interacting with. Pretty much the same thing that you do with horror. That you give them as much or as little as you feel is going to set the mood and put the players on enough of an edge that they want to seek more.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to go about it. And, I feel like skill checks aren't as big a thing in City of Mist just because of the way
No, it's definitely
the
not.
system, just because of the way the system runs. So you don't really need to, which I think is good, because you don't need to roll to do spot hidden or something like that, or just miss clues from bad dice rolls. and
Yeah.
you can just kind of play through it a little bit more, which is something I was telling one of my friends because he wanted to start running D&D, and he was running a mystery. And I'm like, you don't need to make the players roll for everything if they're looking for a clue. If they roll low, maybe it just takes longer. But don't take away
Yeah.
the clues. They need those things.
Yeah, definitely. And what do you call it? I think City of Mist is particularly good at encouraging a mystery aspect because their cases, their games are structured. I'm speaking, assuming that whoever's listening or watching in the audience doesn't know. It's structured like an iceberg.
Yeah.
They call it, where you start at the top, and this is what people see on the surface, and then if they dig a little deeper, it will go down to this level, and it literally the system, it made it easy to write, literally encourages trails of breadcrumbs to lead from one thing to the next. It's very easy. And the other fun thing about writing a mystery, though, is besides parceling out the information, it's also fun to do little bits of red herrings and misinformation and misunderstanding.
Yes.
Because if people know right from the beginning what's going on, it's not as fun.
Yeah, it's always fun to have players think that there's something else going on. And the players, I've found that more
They will
oftentimes than not, they will make their own red herrings.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
They totally will. And they will think it's, and their red herrings, 9 out of 10 times, will be far more interesting than yours.
Oh yeah, like all that happens to me all the time when we're running games, and one of the players will say something, and they're like, "But what if this?" And I'm like, "Ooh, that's a good idea, but what if that?"
It's really fun to watch the players go on their own little destructive path.
Yes,
I
for sure.
resemble that remark.
Well, so a little off topic to one of the previous questions.
I love off topic.
Griff's group, which is the crew's called the Unlucky Few. These
Nice.
guys have pretty much forged their own fate in this game, and they've sort of also skipped through some of the content that I already had written.
Whoops.
This is going back to how much prep do I need to actually do? Well,
Yeah.
this is why you don't structure everything out so tightly, because they ended up walking into the room and essentially murder hoboing all the bosses that I had already decided that they were going to try and fight. Which
Love
you
Murder
guys did.
Hobo.
Oh yeah, these guys went in with they just kicked ass the entire way.
Look, I am I'm the bard. Okay, if we're doing D&D classes, I'm the bard.
Which boss did we murder,
yeah,
Hobo?
mhm.
So you guys killed all of the aspects, by the way. So that was Troll,
That's great.
Crybaby. That was all the guardians for the main boss. You also.
When we write up the case, I'm going to structure it differently, so it
So you
Yeah,
can't kill
so
all the bad guys in one room.
Yeah.
You guys also killed Wednesday, which was another big one. For those who don't know, I actually talk about Wednesday a lot. He's
He's
a
really cool.
he's a
Was
private
he one of your
detective.
characters originally?
Yeah, he was
that
originally
was
one
a
of my
character you made, right? Yeah.
Yeah. He's a private detective who is the embodiment of Odin. So he's missing an eye, he carries a big hand cannon, and he can see around the city using spectral ravens.
Wow. That's yeah. No, I remember you talking to me
Spoilers.
about him. Wait,
Good
does
job,
this
Thomas.
mean that the Rift of Doom, the Doom guy, is also going to make an appearance in one of the adventures?
Oh no.
I have to figure out how to do it legally.
Because yeah.
So
Oh,
there
right.
is a part of the thing that we signed when I got the templates is that we can't use owned IP, intellectual property, for those who don't know.
Public
Yeah.
domain is fine. Historical figures are fine.
Yeah, things that are owned. Yeah, that's a big thing in the Warhammer community right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially with Games Workshop.
Well, UK IP laws are just kind of messed up. to begin
Yeah.
with. So that's interesting. So let's actually
I am
talk about working with the company a bit then, and how
I
that
am
whole
the
process
embodiment
goes.
of Garfield. I
Yeah,
love it,
that's my
Cody.
brother's next City of Mist character, the Rift of Garfield.
Nice.
Weakness tag needs to be Mondays.
Yeah,
Yes. He has a weakness for lasagna too.
yeah, of course.
So you were saying working with
Yeah, like
Son of Oak.
yeah, Son of Oak, the publishing, I forget the name of it. We just talked about it, but the way you publish adventures through them and working with like the whole IP stuff,
Oh,
because
okay.
that very much so interests me.
Yeah. So the way that it worked initially was they had a template that they posted on their website. You had to go in, do a form, you had to agree to a bunch of stuff, and then why?
Nate, stop asking why. I'm giving you negative inspiration for next session.
And then you got the template to be able to work with. It comes with art packs and stuff. And really what you're doing is you're creating the adventure yourself, and then you self-publish it through Son of Oak. And Amit Moshi, the guy who created City of Mist, he really wanted to just make it so that it was easy to be able to pick up and go with. And the whole process is actually fairly streamlined, at least for our first case, because we sent it in through them. They would post it for us, and then I got emails from Omer Shapira, who is one of the guys over at Son of Oak, notifying me, oh hey, this needs to get fixed, oh hey, this needs to be fixed, otherwise it's not going to be able to get posted. As far as what we have to do for the second one, I need to look into that. I believe we can just post it through DriveThru RPG, and the contract still stands just the way that we normally had done it. But I have to double check on that. I'm pretty sure that's how that works. I should probably look.
No, that's great. It's good that it's intuitive because you don't want to make that frustrating for people. So, do you have advice for other people that want to put out adventures through the same process, through the same company for City Mist?
Yeah. So I highly recommend that if you're going to be trying to do the City of Mist Garage, as it's called, if you're going to do the garage, you're going to want to join the Discord. They actually have a channel specifically for the garage so that you can ask questions from the other content creators, as well as some of the designers from Son of Oak, so that you guys can get your feedbacks on whether or not this mechanical work, or how the formatting should work, depending on what program that you're using. And they do have a lot of great tips, which actually helped me get through my formatting when I was trying to use Affinity. So that is one great place to start.
Can you get like
Um, the-
proofreading and playtesting on there too? I'm just curious.
Not proofreading.
Mhm.
I ended up I did part of my own proofreading, and then I sent it out
Oh,
to
cool.
have somebody else do it. And I still may have missed stuff, so I don't know.
I'm sorry for any typos.
It
No,
happens.
it's all good.
I just got a book that I kickstarted, and I noticed like towards one of the end of the pages, like all the words ran together in one sentence, and I'm like, well, it happens.
That happens. Sometimes even all the proofreaders in the world will
Yeah.
miss one thing. Um, so yeah, join the Discord. It's a great place to start. The City of Mist RPG group on Facebook, another great place, because even Amit will jump in and answer questions, even just like gameplay questions. Hey, I got a question about how this mechanic works. He'll jump on and give you an answer, so you get it directly from the guy.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so it's not like they're trying to keep content creators down. They're actually trying to get people to be, in there and get their work out there, because it's really about the stories. You want to be able to play all these stories.
And it's really cool to see a company take that approach rather than some other companies, which are, less.
Shall not be named.
That shall not be named, that work a lot less with their communities and like to slap out cease and desist orders. So I think that that's fantastic that there's that type of community built up behind it. So it sounds very welcoming to new GMs. So do you have advice for GMs that just want to get into this system as opposed to other, like coming from other games? Because I know based off of who I see in the chat that we have other GMs here. So
Yeah. You got anything, Griff? I know I was talking a lot.
Oh no, you definitely know a lot more about what we were talking about in terms of interacting with
Okay.
and get the publishing side of thing.
Yeah, yeah. So
Honestly, I would say the 4, because now they sell it in like separate things now. Like they've got the player's guide and the master of ceremonies guide, and like it's no longer one giant thick chunky book, right?
yeah, it never really was one thick chunky book. Really, all you need is the player's hand guide, because it gives you the basic rules. It gives you an understanding of what it is that you need to really be able to run a game at its bare bones. Even the quick start, the what do you call it? The quick start set that they have is another one where it comes with a case, it comes with characters, and it gives you the bare bones to be able to really just start a game. It's real easy.
Nice. That's great.
And yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, keep going. I'm
just read the player, like
finding links for stuff.
This system, this system, it's read the players thing, and if it jives with you, you will fall in love with the world and want to add to it. It's what happened to us.
Yeah. And like you don't necessarily need all the bells and whistles. Like I got the player's guide. I got all 4 books. And I'm looking forward to the hard copies of the other 2 to arrive. But I knew that because of what this game was, after I read the PDFs, I knew I wanted, the Master of Ceremonies book, which contains everything that you need to writing your own series, your own campaign, everything from creating your own custom threats and how to make sure that your story weaves together in a way that is a mystery instead of just like where in some cases of D&D it's more like a dungeon crawl.
Yes.
And this way you can actually have those tracks where you can, like, people can investigate in multiple sections and get different answers in those areas, and it gives you the tools that you need to be able to write down and get a game running on your own, other than just trying to run one out of the book.
Now I've only seen the players. I have the player's guide. I don't have the Master of Ceremonies guide yet. And the player's guide was incredibly straightforward. Is the Master of Ceremonies guide similarly straightforward and easy to run?
Oh yeah, definitely. Hold on, there we go.
It's a beautiful book. I love I love like the 1970s, 1960s comic book vibe from it.
Yeah, it definitely gives me Frank Miller vibes.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, it does read very easy. The artwork in here is amazing. They also give you they don't just give you like basic threats to go against. They also give you powerful enemies, what are called avatars.
Yes.
It gives you a lot of avatars that you can work with to be threats. It gives you suggestions for how to start games and how to get games, like if you have a stall, how to really get those games back on track and get them running again.
Nice. That's always a good thing to have, because I know some game masters guides like expect a certain level of experience out of the game master, where they're just like, well, you'll know what to do if things goes wrong, and here's an entire chapter on how poison and disease works, because that was definitely what you needed to make things work.
Yeah. Well, the the third book, which has actually been very helpful, is called Shadows and Showdowns, and
Mhm.
that book has an expanded list for themes.
Yep.
Which, if you had been a part of either my games or if you've seen any of the games that I've run on Monsters and Munchkins,
Yay.
things on this run on themes. So there's a lot of cool themes in that book, as well as a shadow organization within the lore of the main game called the Gatekeepers.
I
And
love that they called it the Gatekeepers.
oh my god,
That
I
is
love the
just such
Gatekeepers.
a good name for something in a game.
They
Yeah.
go up to all the reincarnations and just tell them they're not true fans.
Yep.
Yeah. And
Name 3 songs.
Name 3 songs. They mansplain to them too, by the way. But the Gatekeepers are another great theme to add to any game, and I actually have been going back and forth with that book and the DM or the Master of Ceremonies kit, in order to make sure that my game has like all the information that I need in it. So those are definitely the 3 books that I recommend. You really only need the player's guide, but like having all 3 of those books is pretty awesome. And then the last book is called Nights in Paintown, and that's their official campaign book.
Oh, nice.
It's pretty dope.
It is. It's absolutely gorgeous.
So those are that's a collection of official adventures that's put out.
Yes,
That
that
last
is
Nice
book?
to
the
Paintown, yes.
Nice.
yes.
And
And that
are-
is
sorry.
that is also on their drive through RPG
I love
page,
drive-thru
as well
RPG.
as
That and
it's
Kickstarter is where
such a
all of my
great-
money goes. Like,
yeah. Unfortunately, same here.
it's just paycheck. Mm.
Speaking of also slightly off topic, have you seen the Avatar RPG?
No. Is this
The-
Modiphius?
No.
Tell me it's not Modiphius.
It's not
Okay.
Modiphius. Avatar:
Well-
The Last Airbender got an official RPG that's licensed by
Seriously?
Magpie.
Well, I mean,
Really?
yeah, but there's going to be some major balance problems with it. I can already tell.
There's always
like-
yeah. There's no way that
Because
just
then the
works.
Fire Nation attacked.
Exactly.
Well, so here's the thing. Their Kickstarter is almost at 2 million.
Jeez.
Yeah. Their
What was their
initial
goal?
50,000.
When's that supposed to drop?
The Kickstarter dropped yesterday. Like
Okay.
its first official day was yesterday, and they're already almost at 2 million. And it's a 30-day campaign.
Okay, then. Good for them, I guess. Like, that's a lot. Well, I guess
I wonder,
if you can get the
Alan,
license
do
and
they
you know
need
where to market.
writers?
I know, right? Do they need writers? Yeah, we should
You should
go
definitely apply.
check.
Yeah. Be like,
I
you certainly
hear
have
you
the money to pay us.
I hear you. I hear you. I hear you have $2 million. I mean, you need writers.
Don't worry about the fact that I charge $1 a word. I promise that I only have a 5,000 word limit. Or 5,000 word minimum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have $2 million. What are they going to complain about?
Great.
What is?
Anyways,
Yeah, sorry. I just can't believe an RPG raised that much money in a day. That's
yeah, this
crazy.
is
The times
literally
we're
the
living
first
in.
time I've ever seen
The
something like
I
this
think
happen.
the only thing that was like that was the Critical Role Kickstarter
Yeah.
that they did. That was the only thing that was even remotely close to that. Well, you know what? I'm glad it's a game that's not D&D and a group of people that's not Critical Role that's getting all that money on Kickstarter overnight. Nothing against them. It's just good to see the community going in other directions.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to see other people in the space.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think it's mostly because of the IP. If it
For
were anything
sure.
other than Avatar, it probably wouldn't have done as well.
No, absolutely not. You need to
Even if it
yeah.
even if it was branded as like Avatar. Like,
Yeah.
If you like Avatar, you'll like this.
No, it has to be Avatar. Yeah,
And it is officially licensed Avatar, by the
right.
way.
Which is what makes it
S-
big.
Yeah.
I almost wonder like
And
if they redid the Star Wars role playing game, if that would be
oh, they'd have
more
to
popular
pry that.
now.
They'd have to pry that from FFG's cold dead hands.
Yeah, but like FFG's not doing anything with it, so please. Okay, so back on topic now that we've talked about the obscene amount of money that Avatar's made in a day. So City of Mist, especially the whole system for publishing adventures, is very friendly to new game masters. So not for City of Mist in particular, but this is something I love talking about on the channel, and I've not actually had Alan's opinion on this. What are your advice for new game masters in general for any game just getting started, haven't run one before?
Hmm. See, I have always been of the mind that coming in with an open mind and a slight background in improv always
Mm-hmm.
helps. Um, Really, if you're open to it and you allow your players to really sort of allow themselves to explore and you sort of guide them instead of just going, no, we have to do this, we have to do this. It really opens up gameplay for the characters. It gives great character development, and it actually makes your job a lot less stressful.
Mm-hmm.
If you're trying to maintain, they have to hit each marker on this story, you're going to start butting heads, and really at the end of the day, it's a game. You really want to have fun.
Yeah, I think that's great. Griff, do you
Alan
have
is a
anything to
better
add?
game master. Alan is a better game master than me. I would take his advice.
Okay. You're taking the easy way out, I see.
Yes, the coward's way out.
Yeah, the only other thing I would add on top of that, because it's just something I always tell people that are just starting out, is don't start too big. Don't you don't need to
Oh,
write.
definitely.
You don't need to be Tolkien. Like, definitely don't be George R.R. Martin, because that book's never coming out. Just
No.
do what you have to do.
Long dead. We'll
Yeah.
be long dead before we see the wind.
I always joke that he's going to pull a Tolkien and his kids are going to publish it after he's gone.
They found. They literally found new pieces of the Epic of Gilgamesh.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
We've gotten a sequel to the Epic of Gilgamesh before we've
gotten the new game of it's ridiculous. But don't start too big. All you need to start out, my first campaign was a disaster because I was trying to go too big. But I was 13, I didn't know better. But then when I started the next one and it was just a town with a few quests and some people, it was a lot better.
I think all of our first campaigns are always like that,
yeah.
because we have this big grandiose idea and we just want to see if it'll work.
Yep.
And we fall flat on our face, and then you got to pick yourself up. And I think this is where some GMs and DMs end up sort of falling flat, because they get discouraged.
Yes.
Because it's not the way they wanted it the first run. So no, you just got to keep going. You just got to revamp it. You got to redo it and get back on the horse.
One of my favorite authors is an author by the name of Seth Sorskowski, and he's done a bunch of fantasy stuff, a bunch of sci-fi stuff, a bunch of horror stuff. But when he was first out of college, he kept submitting this epic fantasy novel to all these different publishers and getting turned down because it was 100,000. It was a massive book and it wasn't that well put together. So then he just kind of gave up on writing, got a day job, and then he just put out a short story. And that got immediately published. And now he's done something 40 something short stories based off of the same characters. And,
Nice.
And I'm there's nothing wrong with going small.
Yeah. I mean, if I recall correctly, the first game that I ever GM'd was kind of a nightmare. Because I went way too big, and I was mixing I did some Tolkien, I did some straight out of the book D&D lore, and I was like, oh yeah, you guys are in this big fantastical castle and you're gonna meet the queen, and I couldn't do it. I think we lasted maybe 3 sessions before I had to just call it quits.
That sounds about right. All right, so we've actually been here for about an hour, even though it doesn't feel like that. So if there aren't any questions from chat, why don't we go ahead?
I think someone asked why.
But that was yes, they did repeatedly. Nate,
I believe
we'll talk on Friday.
I believe the answer to that question is 42.
It's yeah, exactly. Which was exactly how much fireball damage killed your character in our 23rd session.
Oof. I would say that was a burn, but I think you already felt that.
All right. So once again, I am going to do this and put the link to the game in the chat. When you go to the VOD, it will be the first thing linked in the description. So you'll be able to go and check it out on DriveThruRPG. Before we go, once again, that's Alan Sanchez Capers from the All Seeing Eye Gaming. That's Griff, who helped him write a really cool adventure. And currently he's just Griff that helped write really cool adventure, but I'm sure we'll be seeing more from him in the future.
I hope so.
Yeah, as far as channel stuff goes, next week, making Delta Green characters, which I was, this is more of a session 0 for me to tell them how they're all going to horribly die, because I don't anticipate any of these characters making it very long, being, it's Delta Green. But definitely come and check that out and see the setup for the campaign and the horrors of the cheese industry. And this Friday, we are playing Dungeons and Dragons with the classic dungeon crawl. I got a Beholder mini painted up. It's going to be a lot of fun. So,
spoilers.
Yeah. Well, they've been in a Beholder lair for 3 sessions now. They just haven't found the damn thing. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, until I see you all again,